Hey everyone, it's Melinda with Tailored and Teal and welcome back to another What Sold video. If you're new to my channel, I am a part-time online reseller on Poshmark, Mercari, and eBay, and I do these What Sold videos every 2 weeks, and today's video we're going over sales from April 15th through April 30th of 2023. As always, we start on Mercari, which actually turned out to be a very good 2 weeks on Mercari. I had a total of 8 sales. The first sale was another one of my belts to sell from my belt unboxing. It was a New York & Company gold tone oval link chain tassel belt, and it sold for $15, which was my full asking price. Then a necklace from my America's Thrift Supply jewelry unboxing, which was terrible, sold. This was one of these salvageable pieces, and even this still had just a tiny bit of wear to it. It was an adorable necklace though. It was a brushed gold tone honeycomb and bee charm cable chain necklace, and it sold for $13. I think that was an offer the customer sent to me, but I was certainly happy to accept it. The next sale is a pair of earrings from my Via Trading Amazon jewelry lot. If you didn't catch the video before this one, I did a complete update of that Via Trading lot. I went over all of the data, how much I paid, how much I've sold so far, and I'm happy to report that I am in the green. So anything that I sell from here on out is pure profit. Actually, it has been for quite a few months. I just didn't do the numbers until recently, but I will link that video up here if you haven't seen it. So this was a pair of gold tone mini hoop huggy rhinestone spike earrings. These had a little bit bigger of a post than normal earrings. So when I looked into it, apparently it's more suited for like your cartilage. But of course it's up to the individual whether they want it in just their regular holes or in their cartilage. I did put that in the listing and they sold for $5. I'm not sure that a lot of people know how the offer button works on Mercari, because this was the second customer in like the span of a couple of days that kept sending me the words, "I'll offer you 5." And I said, "Great, no problem, send me an offer." And then they came back and said, "I'm offering you 5." I'm like, oh, maybe they don't understand. So I sent the offer and thankfully they accepted. Next up is a free to me item. I actually sold quite a few free to me items. This was a vintage 1988 Disney Cinderella production sketch of Jack and Gus. They're the little mice from Cinderella. It was a framed piece of artwork. This was my mom's. She had it hanging in her bedroom for years and years and years, even when I was a child. I very fondly remember it, but it was time to pass it along to somebody else, and it sold for $38. Next is a lot of new with tags stainless steel spinner rings. These were all a size 10. All but one of them were new with tags. The other one just seemed like the tag had fell off because it was, barely used and new without tags. These came out of my Shop Goodwill ring lot and they sold together for $12. Another Disney item to sell. This was also a free to me item. It was a vintage 1993 Disney's Beauty and the Beast Look and Find hardcover activity book. This wasn't really selling well anywhere, especially on eBay. Some of the sold comps were like $3 or $4, but I decided to list it around 10 and it sold for that $10 asking price. So I'm glad that I decided to cross post and I stuck with my original price. Next is another Via Trading Amazon jewelry piece. This was a stainless steel Jesus crucifix cross ring. This was a size 8, I believe. I still have one left. It's a size 13, and the size 8 sold for $6. And then the last thing to sell on Mercari was another ring from my Shop Goodwill ring lot, and it was a gold tone wraparound stacked twist ring. This was unbranded, no precious metals or anything, but a really cool statement piece, and it sold for $9. So of my 8 sales on Mercari, I had $108 in sales, $19.09 in fees, giving me a profit of $88.91. And my average sales price for each item that sold was $13.50. Next up, we'll go over sales on Poshmark, where I had 11 sales. Wasn't the greatest 2 weeks on Poshmark, but I'm happy to report that May is doing a lot better than April, so fingers crossed that momentum continues. The first item to sell was an Athleta gray top. This was the Century gray V-neck drawstring hem pullover knit blouse. A lot of people were calling it a sweatshirt, but it was definitely not sweatshirt material. It's just like a jersey stretchy knit, and it sold for $17 with discounted shipping. Next up is a new with tags Baby Tahari black and gold lightweight cardigan. I've had this listed for 2.5 years now, so when someone sent me a $12 offer, I was happy to accept it. Next, we have a pair of Joe's jeans. These were bootcut ombre dip dye, that's what I called them, dip dye denim jeans, because they definitely had that dipped look to them. I've had these since 2020, so I was happy to send an offer of $12 with discounted shipping to get them out of my house. Joe's jeans, I don't pick up in the thrift store unless they're a newer style. These came out of a mystery box, so happy to see them go. Next is a blouse from my America's Thrift Supply micro bale. It was Shaver Lake Casuals, blue chambray button front 3/4 sleeve blouse. I don't think that this brand is made anymore, so I think it's kind of like a vintage brand, and it sold for $10, and that was an offer the customer sent to me. Next is a brassy gold tone Roadrunner peacock pheasant brooch pin. I couldn't figure out what this animal was. My gut was telling me it was a Roadrunner, but when I did a Google image search, there were so many different things that came up. So I kind of listed them all together in the title, and it sold for $11 with discounted shipping. Next, we have an item that came out of my Shop Goodwill ring lot. However, I kind of made a boo-boo, but I'm not exactly sure. So it was a wooden rhinestone silver tone swirl wide band ring. It was actually like a graduating ring. So it was wide on the front, but then on the back it was a smaller band. I thought that this was wood because it was lightweight. It looked like wood. There were even like little pock marks, like where some of the wood would give away and like have little holes in it. I don't know. It just looked genuine wood. I got a message from the customer stating that she thinks it's plastic and it's not wood. It only sold for $9 with discounted shipping. So I said, go ahead and include Poshmark in our chat and let them know that you'd like a refund, because that was my fault if it really is plastic. Well, let me tell you, Poshmark support is not helpful. There's not a lot of times that I need to include Poshmark into my conversations with the customers, but I had to do it twice in these past 2 weeks. The next one you won't hear about until the following What Sold video. That's a whole story too. But they basically came into the chat asking the customer to prove that it was plastic and not wood. And they asked her to provide pictures, and the customer's like, you can see the pictures that she took. It's plastic, I can assure you. And they asked again, but it took them like 14 hours to get back to us. So I think I still got my funds for this item. The customer was definitely refunded. They didn't tell me if my earnings were taken away or released or anything. I didn't see any notification, no email. So I'm assuming that I still got paid for it. So customer got a free ring. I still got paid for it. I will be more careful when looking at wood versus plastic, faux wood, all that kind of stuff. But lesson learned. Next is another belt to sell out of my belt unboxing. It was a silver tone textured rectangle and round ring chain belt, and it sold for $11 with discounted shipping. Next, we have a vintage Catherine Paisley floral sleep shirt and slip lingerie set. I purchased this back in 2019. I rephotographed it, relisted it as a brand new item, and it sold for $16 with discounted shipping. Next is a Gap Fit Breathe Blue twisted open back shirt, and it sold for $14 with no discounted shipping. Then we have a pair of Guess pink woven cotton blend cuffed hem shorts. These did have quite a bit of fading on like the zipper area and in between the legs. Basically just the pink color had come off in those spots. Still wearable, of course. And they sold for $8, and that was an offer the customer sent to me. And then the last item is another item from 2019 that I'm so happy to see gone. It was a Kennar orange 100% rayon V-neck popover blouse, and it also sold for $8 with discounted shipping, and that means that I lost money. I lost $1.59, but it's gone, so I can't complain. So of my 11 sales on Poshmark, I had $128 in sales, $33.15 in fees. I gave out $14.14 in shipping discounts, giving me a profit of $80.71. My average sales price for each item that sold was pretty low, especially on Poshmark. It was $11.64. And then moving on to eBay, where I had 18 sales. The first sale on eBay was a vintage 1972 The Foxfire book. This was all about mountain plain living, homesteading, moonshine making, building your house from scratch. It was a very interesting book. This was a free to me item. It sold for $7. It had a lot of likes and interest on all platforms, and it sold within a week of me listing, and it only went about 45 minutes north of me, which I always think is funny when it sells kind of locally. Next up is a teardrop enamel multi-metal stranded pendant necklace. It had lots of browns and oranges and some glittery tones. It would have been perfect for fall, and it sold for $10, and that was an offer the customer sent to me. Next up is an item that I probably let sell for a lot lower than what I should have. However, sales were kind of slow, so I'm okay with it. And it was a free to me item. It was a vintage Franciscan Johnson Brothers Friendly Village glass pitcher. It had a beautiful picture of a covered bridge. It came with its original box, and it ended up selling for $18.50. Next is a loft blue chambray eyelet scallop hem sleeveless blouse. This came out of my America's Thrift Supply micro bale, and it sold for $13.75. Next, we have a universal thread mid-rise rolled cuff boyfriend denim shorts. These were a size 4 or 27. I think these came out of my denim rescue box from ThredUp, and it sold for $9.75. Next up was a pair of earrings that I lotted together. They are from my Via Trading jewelry lot. It was the brand Artisan Owl, and it was a pair of pink seahorse earrings and starfish rhinestone earrings, and they sold together for $8. Next is the first lot of CDs that I have listed from my own personal collection. If you didn't watch the video where I did a haul from all of my stuff I brought home from Pennsylvania with me, I brought all of my CDs from high school, from college age, and I'm just lotting them together by artist or by genre, depending on how many I have. This was the first one to sell, and it was a lot of 2 Lindsay Lohan CDs. This was the album Speak and A Little More Personal, and they sold for full asking price of $7.99. Next up is a Worthington Palm leaf print sleeveless flared hem blouse. This also came out of my America's Thrift Supply micro bale, and it sold for $11.04. I think I was running a 15% off discount. That's why the extra 4 cents is in there. Next, we have a vintage 1986 Holiday Fun with Cricket the Talking Doll book and cassette. The customer did reach out to me asking if there's any way that I could test the cassette, and I said, unfortunately, I don't have a cassette player at my house. I could have gone to the thrift store and found one, but this was the last cassette that I had. So I explained to the customer, I've already sold 4 or 5 of these tapes and no one has said anything, so I think that they're good. But she asked if I would take a lower offer because of that, and I said, no problem. So it sold for $9. Next up is a brown faux stone acrylic rectangle cord tie waist belt. This came out of my belt unboxing. This sold twice. The first time the customer never paid for it, and this time the customer paid right away, and it sold for $10.19. Next, we have an item that went all the way to Ireland, and it was actually a flawed item. So it was a pair of Hudson white triangle pointed flap pockets bootcut denim jeans. They were a size 24. They did have some flaws. They had some staining. I did my best to get them out, but you know, I listed them as like an upcycle project or something that you could dye, and I accepted an offer of $10. Next is a Kim Rogers 100% lyocell chambray striped bell sleeve blouse. This also came out of my America's Thrift Supply micro bale, and it sold for $9. Then we have another international sale. This one was kind of a boo-boo on my part. So this was a free to me item. So that's why I don't really mind that I didn't make a ton of money off of it. So it was a vintage coffee house wooden cup caddy rack, could be hanging or freestanding. The customer bought it outright from my full asking price of $26.99. However, I did not calculate the shipping correctly. So the customer ended up paying $31 in shipping, but when I packed it all up, and it's going to New Zealand, so I wanted to make sure that it was packed well, I added extra weight to it with all of my packing materials, and I ended up paying $50 to ship it to them. So after everything is said and done, I only made a profit of 91 cents. But again, it's a free to me item. I'm happy to pass it along to someone. The customer actually told me that they have a collection of these types of items, so they are very happy to add it to their collection. So I'm okay with making that very small amount. Next is a Bandolino bright purple Mandy mid-rise straight leg jeans. These had a teeny tiny mark on one of the legs, but were still in great condition otherwise. They were a free to me item, and they sold for $9. Next is a Bulgari. I think that's how you say that. It's BVLGARI. I should have looked it up beforehand. Anyway, it was a sample perfume. I got a whole bunch of them at a yard sale for very, very cheap. And this one sold for $6.29. And this was the Rose Goldia. Next is another free to me item. It was a 1997 Precious Moments Blonde Girl painting an Easter egg. It had a little snow globe as the Easter egg. It was in excellent condition, and it sold for $14.39. Another bunch of items that I brought home from Pennsylvania with me is a whole bunch of vintage magazines. I only brought home 3 years worth of vintage magazines because they're super heavy, they're super big, and this was Ladies Home Journal. So I'm currently selling 1944, 1945, and 1946. This was the first lot that sold. So I decided to lot them in groups of months within the year. I thought about doing a whole year's worth, but these magazines are so heavy. A lot of 3 of them can weigh anywhere from 3.5 pounds to 5 pounds. So I really didn't want to ship the whole year. So I decided to put them in like quarters of the month. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And this was a lot of the October, November, December. It did include ads. The customer did pay full asking price of $34.99. And they only went to Connecticut, so the shipping wasn't too high for them. But you'll see in my next What Sold video, I had a customer in Texas buy some of these magazines, and he paid over $20 some to ship it out. So they are not light. And then the last sale on eBay was a cobalt blue and yellow ribbon swirl glass graduating band ring. This came out of my Shop Goodwill ring unboxing, and it sold for $10.79. So of my 18 sales on eBay, I had $226.67 in sales. I only made a shipping profit of $11.82 this time because of the whole international shipping to New Zealand thing. So normally I'd make anywhere from 25 to 35 in shipping profit, but I made a boo-boo, so I didn't make that much. Fees this time was $63.85, giving me a profit of $174.64. My average sales price for each item that sold was $12.59. And now to go over my total numbers, where I had 37 sales from April 16th through April 30th of 2023. I had $462.67 in sales. Fees was $118.41. My cost of goods this time was super low, $57.83, giving me a profit of $286.43. And my average cost of goods for each item that sold was only $1.56. And I ended up selling 14 free to me items. So if you aren't telling people what you do or asking if anyone's doing spring cleaning and that you can take their donations for them for free or for a small amount, whatever you decide, you might want to do that. As long as you don't mind listing whatever they give you. I was pretty fortunate in this scenario that I was able to actually pick and choose what I wanted to bring home with me, but it never hurts to tell people what you do because you can get a lot of free inventory that way. Well, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope that your sales are picking up. These summer months usually are pretty good in terms of people buying shorts and sandals and things like that. So get those items listed. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye.